Hello and welcome to my science tutorials. In today's video, we want to look at how to solve quadratic equation by the method of factorization. Now let's go ahead and have a look at an example. Assuming we have the example s squared plus 2x minus 35 is equal to 0. And we have to solve this example using the method of factorization. What do we do? Now the first thing we do is to use the coefficient of the s squared term over here to multiply the constant that we can see over here. So if we do that, we can see that the coefficient of x term is 1. If we use it to multiply by negative 35, the answer is going to be negative 35. Okay, now this negative 35, we need to look for two values or two numbers that if we add or subtract, we get the number in the middle over here, the 2s we have in the middle over here. So that is what we need to do. So if we think about any two numbers that we can multiply to get negative 35, but if we add or subtract, we get positive 2, there are two numbers that come to mind. We have 7 and 5. Now if you multiply 7 and 5, you get 35. But because we want to make it negative 35, it means we have to negate one of these values so that we get negative 35. But if we look at what we have over here, we have positive 2x. So it means we need to negate the 5 over here so that 7 plus negative 5 will give us positive 2. The same way, 7 multiplied by negative 5 will give us the negative 35. So the two factors that we can see is positive 7 and then negative 5. So if you multiply positive 7 by negative 5, we get the 35 that we can see over here, negative 35. And if we add these two guys, we get the positive 2 that we have over here. Okay, so now that we've understood how to get the factors, let's go ahead and solve this example. So we've identified that if we use the factors positive 7 and then negative 5, we are going to get the negative 35 we have here. So we have this. We have the s squared term here plus 7x then minus 5x minus 35 is equal to 0. We realize that if we add 7x minus 5x, we still get the positive 2x we have at the top over here, which means we've not done anything to the equation, or we've not changed the equation in any way or format. Now from here, what we need to do is to group like terms and factor out the common values that we have. So if we compare s squared and 7x over here, s is common between them, so we factor s out, then we open bracket. For s squared term, we're going to have x, so x multiplied by x will give us s squared, then plus we have 7 left in the bracket over here, so x times s will give us s squared, s times 7 will give us 7x over here. Then we have minus between 5x and 35, the common number that we can see over there is 5, so we bring 5 out, then we open bracket, we bring s here, then plus 7 again is equal to 0, which means if you multiply the negative 5 by 7, we get negative 5x as we can see at the top over here, and then if we multiply negative 5 by 7, we get negative 35 as we can see over here. Okay, so now that we've done that, we need to group this, the x and then the negative 5 aside, and then these guys are the same, so we take one of them. So we say we have x minus 5, and then we have x plus 7 is equal to 0. Now all guys, we are now to equate them to 0 and find our answer. So it means my first answer will be s minus 5 is equal to 0. Then I move the 5 to the other side to make s stand alone, so s will be equal to 5. So this is my first answer. Now my second answer will be x plus 7 is equal to 0. Therefore s is equal to negative 7. So it means that if I solve this quadratic equation, I will have two answers. One is s is equal to positive 5, and the second one is s is equal to negative 7. These are my answers for for this particular problem. Now let's go ahead and solve another example. So the second example we want to look at is we have s squared minus 7x plus 10 is equal to 0. As usual, we use the coefficient of the s squared term to multiply the constant that we have. So we have 1 multiplied by 10. That will give us positive 10. Now we need to find two factors that if we add, we get the negative 7 we have here, but if we multiply them, we get the 10 that we have. So if you think, you realize that 2 and 5, if you multiply these guys, you get 10. But if you add them, you get positive 7 instead of the negative 7 that we have over here. So to do that, we need to negate these two guys. So if we have negative 2 multiplied by negative 5, we are still going to get positive 10. But if we add negative 2 and then negative 5, we are going to get negative 7. So it means negative 2 and negative 5 will be our perfect factors in this case. So we are going to use them for the calculation. Alright, so it means I can now write my s squared term here minus 2s then minus 5x plus 10 is equal to 0. Now if you note, you can see that minus 2s minus 5s will still give me minus 7x, as we can see at the top over here. So nothing has been done to the equation. The equation is still the same. Now I need to factor out the common items that I can see, or the common numbers that I can see. Between these two guys, I see that s is common, so I factor s out. I have into bracket x minus 2. So it means if I multiply x by the x in the bracket, I get s squared. If I multiply x by the negative 2 inside, I get negative 2x, as I can see at the top over there. Now between negative 5s and then positive 10, I can see that 5 is common between them. So I bring 5 out. So I have minus 5 into bracket, I have x. Minus 5 multiplied by s will give me minus 5x. Then here minus 2 is equal to 0. So negative 5 multiplied by negative 2 will give me positive 10 at the top over there. So from here, I group the x and then the negative 5 at one side. I have x minus 5 and then x minus 2 at one side is equal to 0. So from here, I can group each of these individual terms. I can equate them to 0. So from there, I have x minus 5 is equal to 0. This means that s is equal to positive 5 as my first answer. And then my second answer will be x minus 2 is equal to 0, which is this guy over here. Then I have s is equal to positive 2 as my answer. So my answers, if I solve this quadratic equation, I'm going to get two values. S is equal to positive 5 and then s is equal to positive 2 as my answer. So let's go ahead and see another example. Let's say we have s squared minus 16 is equal to 0. How do we solve this problem? Now this is a little bit special in the sense that we can rewrite this equation as s squared minus 4 squared is equal to 0. We know that 4 squared is equal to 16. Now if we look at this expression very well, it looks something similar. It looks like difference of two squares. Yes, it is difference of two squares. Difference of two squares means this will be x minus 4 s plus 4 is equal to 0, which means s squared minus 4 squared is equal to x minus 4 multiplied by x plus 4. That is the difference of 2 squared. Now from here, we can simply equate them to 0 and get our answer. So our first answer is going to be s minus 4 is equal to 0, and therefore s is equal to positive 4. Or we have x plus 4 is equal to 0, and then s is therefore equal to negative 4 over here as our answer. Let's see whether that is true. So we are saying the first answer, s is equal to positive 4. So let's try that. So if s is equal to positive 4, it means that we have 4 squared minus 16 is equal to 0. And then 4 squared is 16 minus 16. That is definitely equal to 0. So it means our first case is correct. Now what if s is negative 4? We are going to have negative 4 squared minus 16 is equal to 0. Now negative squared means negative 4 multiplied by negative 4, and that will give us what? Positive 16. So we have 16 minus 16 is equal to 0. So it means that our answer, which is s is equal to 4 or negative 4, is also correct. Now let's have a look at one final example. So say we have 5x squared minus 8x is equal to 4. Now the first thing we need to do is to group all the variables that we have at one side and equate it to 0. So to do that, we bring the 4 to the other side of the equal to sign. So we have 5x squared minus 8x minus 4 is equal to 0. So from here, we multiply the coefficient of the x term by the constant. So 5 multiplied by negative 4 will give us negative 20. Will give us negative 20. Now we want to look for two factors that if we multiply, we get negative 20, but if we add or subtract, we get negative 8 over here. Now if you look at negative 10 and 2, you realize that negative 10 multiplied by 2 will give us negative 20, but if we add these two, we are going to get negative 8. So these two guys becomes our factors that we are going to use. So let me quickly get rid of these guys. Okay. So from there, it means that I can rewrite my whole equation as 5s squared minus 10x plus 2s minus 4 is equal to 0. From here, I can factor out the common or the like terms that I see. So between 5s squared and then the 10s, I can factor out 5s, then into bracket s minus 2, then plus over here between 2s and 4, 2 is common, so I factor 2 out into bracket x minus 2 is equal to 0. I then group them, so I have 5s plus 2 and then x minus 2 is equal to 0. From here, I can now equate my equations to get my answer. So I have 5s plus 2 is equal to 0, which means I have 5s is equal to negative 2, sending the negative 2 to the other side of the equal to sign. So I divide both sides by 5 to make my s stand alone. So I have my x to be equal to negative 2 on 5 as my first answer. Now for the second answer, it means I have my x minus 2 is equal to 0. Therefore means that my s is equal to positive 2 or just 2. So it means that my answer for this particular example is s is equal to negative 2 on 5 or s is equal to positive 2 as my final answer. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.